Hey, everybody, welcome to the Sober Strength podcast powered by Or Health. I'm your host, Jesse Karajet. You are tuning in for an awesome episode focusing on everything you need to know to get as fit as possible and to obtain and maintain your fitness past 40 years old. And oh, by the way, doing so alcohol-free if you so choose. So we have an awesome guest, Dane Palarino, founder of Dad Bod Sculptors, is going to kind of pull back the curtains and give all of his tips and tools and secrets on how to achieve peak fitness later on in life. Again, that's in your 40s and older. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. We go into his story, and then in the second half of the episode, he really starts to talk about fitness and nutrition, mindfulness, daily habits, and things like that. Absolutely awesome episode, and he's an awesome guy. We'll link to all of his resources in the episode notes. So if you want to find, follow, and be inspired by Dane, check out the show notes. Everything's in there. A couple quick points before we jump into the episode. Want to encourage everybody to check out the Ultimate Fitness community. That's where we have a tribe of like-minded individuals, all just really, seeking to live their best life. And there's fitness tips in there. There's forums, meetups. You can chat directly. We actually host weekly gatherings where we talk about all things fitness. So that's a free community. You can also link to that in the show notes as well as on our website. If you don't know, now you know. There is an Ultimate Fitness app where we have 20 plus fitness programs that are expert designed for anyone, whether you're trying to work out 3 times a week, 6 times a week, grow muscle, lose fat, run a marathon, what have you. We've got an awesome app for you. So you can find that app at altumfitness.com. That's ALTUM fitness.com, or you can find it as well as a link in the episode description. Definitely want to encourage you to look at that app. So those are the tools that we have for you. So pumped to bring Dane Palarino to the Sober Strength podcast. Let's go deep. All right, everybody. I'm sitting here with Dane Palarino, the founder of Dad Bod Sculptors. What's up, Dane? How are you?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure.
Doing well.
We were chatting offline a little bit, and I wouldn't say I was warning Dane, but I was telling him that I really like to go deep around fatherhood, being a husband, and balancing all those things. So in this episode, you can expect us to go there. But Dane, let's get started, man. So these are my I would define you as, just from getting to know your presence online, fitness coach, content creator. I know you're a husband and a father and a follower of Jesus. So this conversation is going to go everywhere, but all the places. But let's just get started with this, man. How did you wind up doing what you're doing now? Because I know you had a big shift in your life, at least professionally, from being a business owner to who you are now, which is helping coach men to kind of find their best fitness and their best life. But what brought you to this space, bro?
Yeah, so the online coaching business now, which is Dad Bod Sculptors, prior to that, I've been running a headhunting firm for fast-growing technology companies the last 10 years, since 2010, and up until the point where I kind of started putting health and fitness a priority in my life, which was around 2020. Those prior 10 years were me and my wife building 2 headhunting firms. And so I'd met my wife early on in my journey of starting my first firm. It was actually, that's where faith kind of crossed over, and I was given this beautiful woman in my life, and she launched the first company with me. Prior to that, though, like, I'd been married, I had a 3-year-old, I had a 1-year-old, and I found myself just to be about 42 years old. And I had the most success I had ever had in business, with my second firm kind of taking off. Within 3 years, we built it into a 7-figure business. We went from like 0 inbound leads to almost 30 inbound leads a month. And it was ideally what I wanted. This was a very high ticket sale. It was high stakes headhunting for CEOs and venture capital firms, like placing their executives and their critical hires within product management. And it was really ideal. But what had happened was, in the 3 years of building that firm, I had compromised and dropped a lot of standards and disciplines in my own life. And so I was offsetting the success of my business by kind of really sabotaging my own health and fitness. And that was impacting me everywhere, not only the way I felt in my own body, but the way that I was showing up for my wife, the way that I was being a father to my kids, the way that I was interacting with my employees and my clients. And it all stemmed from this major insecurity that I had of
Mm.
who I was in my body. I looked like a lot of my clients, right? But I don't know if it bothered them as much as it bothered me, but I carried that a lot. And so that started this negative self-talk, right? Where I slowly found that I no longer wanted to look myself in the eye anymore. I avoided taking selfies. I don't want to take pictures with my family. And I was super proud of my family. And I was recognizing like this is a really bad pattern. Like I have this beautiful child who's 3 years old. I have another one that we were just blessed with. I've got this amazing wife that loves me and serves me and is honored to me. And I'm just not showing up for them. I was showing up financially and putting myself in an office to be successful. But I was not supplying the demands of of being a father and being a husband.
Mm.
And so how that showed up for them really, dude, was like I was short with my wife, and I was irritable, and I was sleeping later than my kids because I no longer wanted to get up and do what I was doing. So my days were starting later, and it was like, oh, be quiet, daddy's sleeping.
Mm.
And so I just lost my way in my own body, so to speak. And so it was just about work now. And so then later on, I'd work and I'd finish. And then it was like, okay, let's eat some bad food and have some drink. And I was smoking weed. And I just was creating this environment where I needed to escape.
Mm.
And it didn't seem right, but I was living that. And it was almost kind of just monotonous Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
So that led me to a place, man, around 2020 where I kind of knew things had to change. The negative self-talk was really bad. I would, and when it comes down to marriage, it was really there. I didn't feel like desiring my wife because I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. And so how I was seeing that was I wasn't being desired, but it was really, I was just putting out terrible energy towards her, even though that she was committed to me. And so that led to more insecurities and more anger and more lashing out. And I knew this isn't her, this is me. You know, I had to really start having those conversations with, there's nothing she can do to fix me. Like, I have to fix me. And so
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it. I get emotional about it because it was a really tough time, but I didn't know how to do it. So I just remembered these times in my life because I always had health and fitness. I always trained. I was always active, even at this time when I was out of shape and my body was, I like to say like a pear. I was training 5, 6 days a week, believe it or not. I was doing group fitness classes, Orange Theory. I was burning 1,000 calories, and I just was eating those all back at night. I was fasting throughout the day. But I knew it's not changing my body, and I don't feel good in the body. So everything else is the root of this problem needs to get fixed. And so I decided that I was going to start looking into getting back into health and getting back into shape. And so that required me to kind of figure out like, all right, well, I've done all these other things like keto and the calisthenics and the group fitness classes, like, but I remembered back in college, like one of my roommates taught me about like eating right and changing body composition and lifting weights. And so I was like, I would remember being so happy because I had this system of habits. Like I was very regimented in my meals and I ate them every 4 hours. And it felt like I was showing up for myself every day. And I remembered like that version of myself. So I went back to like, excuse me for swearing, but I was like literally what I said in my head. I was like, that's it. It's chicken and rice, motherfucker. That's all it is. Like I'm going back to that place. And then I remember like, well, chicken and rice is like bodybuilder style. And then I was like, well, bodybuilders are the best in the world at changing body composition. Like, let me get into that. And I started studying the bodybuilders and started like every night, like I was watching these YouTube videos, like what are they eating? What are they training? How are they running their days? How are they? And I found peace in that. It was like, that gives me regimen. Like I can start that tomorrow and start feeling better. Like every 4 hours, I can say like I had a W because I had a meal. And that was how the journey really started for me, which was just trying to get habits in place that were completely different than what the ones that I had,
Right.
to get my life on track and not put it all on my wife because that's where it
Yeah.
was going. She was the only person that saw this because I wasn't communicating this to friends and I wasn't telling her I was insecure. It was just showing up in other ways.
Yeah. Let
Uh,
me ask you this. If you can go, um, kind of revisit in your head and your heart when the business was taking off, and it sounds like you had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old
Yeah.
at the time. What was it going on, or what was happening kind of internally that made that season particularly challenging, which then led you not only to kind of let go of and deteriorate physically, but what you said earlier was emotionally as well. Like, can we just kind of linger there for a second? What did it feel like every day when you were balancing being a husband and a father to two very, let's just call it what it is, needy children at that age? I mean, they are all
Yeah.
hands on deck, right? But then also balancing your ambition. And I'm assuming, and it is an assumption on my part, but like, it's exciting when your business is taking off and it's lucrative and you're providing financially.
Yeah.
But what was it about that season that you think kind of led you down an unhealthy path?
See, my wife is such an amazing woman. She is a doer. So she did, I can't even remember changing a diaper. She
Mm,
dealt with that. I never got woken up in the middle of the night. She dealt with that. Like she loved being a mom. And maybe it was this point of like not feeling needed because my kids weren't as needy to me as they were for her.
mm,
And so her neediness, their neediness was all on her. So it was always mommy, mommy, mommy. So I didn't feel like initially, like, wow, it's amazing to be a dad. It was amazing to be a dad, but I also felt like I wasn't needed as much as she was. And so it made me feel more isolated.
mm.
And so in the isolation was when I started to create this distance in this space from the family because it was like, well, they need her because she has the breast milk and she's mommy and she needs them because they're needy. And she was handling it all. And she wasn't like, babe, you got to get it. Because I coach guys, and some of these guys, like, they're on their own journey. And it's like, wife's waking them up at like 2 o'clock, like, you got to do it. And I'm like, damn, I never had that. My
Right.
wife literally took care of that business. But the downside of that was I never felt needed. So that was like this place of, I guess, being alone, right? Like being in a relationship, but not being a part of the team, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that was it. So the business was success, but I wasn't connecting with clients and candidates like friends. It was business, and I wasn't connecting with my other men friends because I found Christ and I had a different way of looking at things. Like I dropped porn and I dropped a lot of these vices that they talked about and engaged in. And I was like, I'm married, man. I don't talk about those things anymore. I don't look at those things. Don't send me pictures. And so that created this space with me and my friends too, where it was like, oh, he doesn't want to engage in this type of dialogue. And so I kind of just slowly separated myself to be on an island alone. And then that became a little bit of my demise.
Yeah. Yeah. So you became a believer when then? How old were you?
I became a believer in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the long of it was I was super successful in outside sales. I sold financial instruments for some major companies. I was always top, either the top rep or top 5% of those sales institutions. So UBS Financial Services and then Paychex. And when I was at Paychex, I became a top player. But unfortunately, I got addicted to pain pills from a
Mm,
car accident that led to pain pills that probably should have never been prescribed. Those pain pills were fueled with alcohol plus money, and it just became in South Florida. It became this whirlwind of a really fast-paced life, and so that led to me actually getting fired from that job as a top performer because I went intoxicated on the job from a long night out,
mm.
um, after many warnings. And that led me to be completely unemployed in this place of I have nothing now. Everything I worked for is gone. And so I was kind of unemployable because I had this story of like, well, I can't call my last employer. So I remember when I was there, one of the other top reps was always like, dude, you have more talent in your fingertips than I have my whole body. Like, like don't blow it. And yeah, it was tough because he gave me a Bible. And it like sat on my desk forever. It's right over here, and it's got my name on it. And he was like, "You need to know Jesus," and I was like, "Yeah, I got you." Like I grew up Catholic. But when I hit those times, I still partied for 6 months because I had money. and I still kept taking the elevator down. And that's where the addiction part of me came in, right? It was like I didn't have anything, so I dove deeper into this kind of addiction and partying and in the darker side of life.
Hi, I'm Jesse Karajat, founder of Altum Fitness, where our mission is to help you break free from unhealthy habits and mindsets to find true physical and emotional fitness. The Altum Fitness app is a world-class fitness companion offering expertly designed workout programs personalized to any goal and any experience level. By joining this community, you'll gain access to top-notch expert training programs, nutritional guidance, habit change programs, and so much more, all tailored to help you achieve your unique goals. By joining Altum Fitness, you'll also gain access to our exclusive companion community, the Altum Tribe. In the Tribe, you'll find access to expert coaches, habit change programs, live challenges, events, and so much more. It's a space to connect, learn, grow, and be motivated as you navigate your fitness journey. For one low monthly subscription, you'll be granted full access to our fitness app, community, exclusive challenges and content, and so much more. So join Altum Fitness today and become part of our amazing community. Download now and let's live deep.
And then finally, in that point in my life, I said, enough is enough. Like, I got to get myself straight. And I said, I'm going to make one commitment, and that's going to go to this church every Sunday. So that meant I had to make better decisions Friday and Saturday. And this is how I met my wife's story. So I said, for 90 days, I'm gonna go for this church. And in that time, they said that there was going to be a baptism. And I just really got connected, man. I walked in there, and I remember just being like he's talking to me, like,
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on? Like, this is totally different. But I knew, like, okay, I'm going to keep showing up. So I kept showing up, and God kept talking to me, and I kept starting to build this relationship with Christ. And I said, all right, I'm going to give myself to Christ. And it was 10/9 was the date of the baptism. Okay. And so I'm going to church, and I'm skipping Friday night outs and Saturday nights out, because I know if I go out, I ain't making it to church on Sunday, because I was one of these guys that once I went out, I didn't stop. And sure enough, man, I run into the week leading up to the 10/9, I meet this girl in the gym who I recognized multiple times that week, that we had recognized each other from somewhere. And I finally just went up to her and said, like, do we know each other? And she's like, are you Dane Palarino? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, are you Marla? I had seen her 3 or 4 days, and she's like, it's Marley. And we recognized that we met each other 10 years earlier in a club. Years earlier in a club. And I was like, no way. And I had so much of these life experience that I was back in the same place that I was 10 years ago, rebuilding my life. And so I exchanged her number, and I texted her, and I was like, you want to go out tonight? And I'm thinking in the back of my head, if she says yes, there's a chance I miss this baptism on Sunday. And I was like, but if she says yes, I'm going to go. And she's like, I can't. I'm actually out of town this weekend. So I'm like, oh, thank God. Right? It was like
You kept the door open. The door is open. Yeah.
And sure enough, I made the baptism on 10/9. I met her for the first time 10/9 that evening. She came over 10/10. The evening Monday after 10/10. And I always say, God didn't even trust me enough to give me a day on my own. And I knew immediately, like, this was different. Like, this was a gift from God. And so I got saved, and she had been a Catholic, and I had been a good practicer of that for years. But then we moved to Charleston. I was isolated. She wasn't a Christian yet. She was a Catholic, so she wasn't practicing. And we started drinking more, and just we got spiritually attacked, as I like to say. Like, we went through a really dark period in the first couple of years of our marriage, and it put a lot of stress on us. And so she eventually got saved, and we put God first, and that literally saved our marriage, because the first 3 years it was very, very rocky. All the insecurities came out, all the past, all the this, and so if we didn't kind of go back to where we both were like, okay, God sits at the top of the pyramid for this. Like, we cannot build a foundation if we don't prioritize that. And we did. And so that's when I initially got saved, was 2010.
Amen. Just a little detail here. I noticed you said that she was a Catholic. She wasn't a Christian yet. That's a confusing theological statement.
Yeah. But she didn't have a relationship with Christ.
I understand.
That's what I mean. She was a believer, but not an active practicer of building her own relationship with Christ.
Gotcha. I
It was
understand.
only
So
through the church.
if I'm tracking, and I think I am, so that was in 2010 when you got
Yeah.
saved. Okay, so you're coming up on your 14-year spiritual birthday in just a couple months here. Yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations, brother. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so flash and fact forward. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but first off, I think it's good. It doesn't feel it in the time, but when you go through things walking alongside a spouse that are challenging, whether it's, spiritual warfare or something logistically challenging like building a house, having a baby, changing jobs, starting businesses, you come out stronger on the other side, and it certainly seems to be the case for you and Marla. Was it Marla or Marley? I heard you say two different. Marley? Okay, sorry,
yeah.
Marley. So jumping forward now to the two of you had children, 3-year-old, 1-year-old, business owner. Sounds like you started feeling isolated. You weren't connecting with your old friends because of your faith and your new lifestyle, your healthier spiritual lifestyle. You're not connecting in a meaningful way with, the people you're spending a lot of time with, which sounds like employees and clients, and then almost isolating from your wife as well because she's, falling into this role where she's probably spending a lot of time caring for children. And you find yourself kind of, well, whoa, I'm on an island here. Like, who am I having meaningful connection with? What did you do? What did you do from there, from that point?
So like my wife, she took care of the kids all day, and then she would go read them the book to bed, and she would put them to sleep, and sometimes she would fall asleep and she wouldn't come out, right? And I would get offended, like, you left me alone again, it was like. So I always had this kind of like every night was like, is she going to come out of the room tonight? Is we going to spend some time together? Is there ever going to be a moment where we have time? But that was kind of this place. So literally it was like, I recognized she's not going to fix me. Like we had these years of turbulence early on. We recognized where Christ was, and I was just kind of aware. And it was like, nobody's going to fix you, Dane. Like you got to get to this place. So for me, it was like fixing myself. And so I would spend these evenings watching YouTube videos on things that I could implement the next day. Like, what were these people doing? And so I started to recognize that there were habits that I needed to change and micro habits, right? And so it was like, instead of sleeping in, get up early. Once you get up early, like feed your mind before your mind takes over the day, right? With negative thoughts, or sort of feeding it positive stuff. And then, the training piece, like instead of doing that any random time, do that first. Like raise your vibration, get yourself going. And then, from there, like you have a chance that you're going to be angry 3 hours later, set yourself up with a meal plan that you have to follow. And that within those every 3 or 4 hours, you can say, I got something to focus on. I got a goal. Okay, I achieved that goal this hour. So I set up these little micro guardrails to allow me to not allow my thoughts to take control. And so the more I became less dependent on her validation and her time and attention, the more I realized I'm building myself back up, right? And now in the evening, I had woken up early. I had read positive things. I had hit 4 or 5 meals in a row, right? I started staying away from alcohol. So then I recognized, like, I'm not as grouchy with her anymore, and I'm not snapping at her. So I started to like really recognize the pattern and then when I would drink, that guy would come out again. And I'm like, I was like, damn it, here we go again. Like here I am trying to create a better version, but I still have a habit from the old version. So enough of that kind of swaying, just really like, that's it. We're going to crush these habits. We're going to get better at the habits. We're not going to worry about the body. We're not going to worry about the outcome. We're going to worry about the activity. And so I started to really just become heavily reliant on controlling the controllable.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
That was my activity. And the more I did that, literally, like I went from the caveman of like insecure to like, I would stand taller. I would grab my wife's hand in public. I would take the lead on things. I would go and take time from my kids versus like, why aren't they playing with me? Like this victim mentality and that I started to have. And so really, dude, it was like I recognized like I'm super unhealthy. I had all these autoimmune issues. My skin was breaking out because I was drinking these IPA beers. I was over 30% body fat. I felt like I was just an old man. All my joints ached. My thoughts were becoming just uncontrollable. And I wasn't having this intimate relationship with the one person that I committed my life to.
Yeah.
So you have to change, like, because this doesn't scale well. Your son's 6 now. The other one's 3. Who are you for them? Your son's 10 now. The other one's 7. Who are you for them? And I just started seeing that. And I was like, it scared the shit out of me. You know, it was, there's no way. Like, I can't be that for them. Like, they 1000% deserve the best version, no matter how uncomfortable I am. And so I just cracked the code.
Hell yeah. Amen. I can see you getting emotional there. Look, I'm fired up. You got me fired up there, because what you did was you turned around, you said, I'm going to grab this bull by the horns. And that bull is basically life. Stop pointing fingers outward and start saying, what can I do inward? And I love the way you put that. Control the things that you can control. And I will say this, and it's just on a foundational, fundamental level. Perhaps we're similar personality wise, but for me, on a day where I wake up early, I have me time, and me time is working out, and it's like checking that box, and it's prepping my day, feeling like when I'm in control of my day and when I start the day and do that first, the rest of my day, I feel so much more relaxed, at ease, loving, willing to give instead of take or ask for something, willing to sacrifice. If you kind of eat that frog early, it sets you up emotionally for the whole day. And I can relate you with that. And you have this phrase that I pulled out on your Instagram channel, which is fine tuning the daily actions that stack up to huge benefits. That's your quote. And I love it. And you just hit some of them, but let's linger here for a second. I want to draw you out because what you just described there, 30% body fat, can't control your thoughts, don't feel good. I mean, there's probably a lot of people listening that like, yeah, that's where I'm at, and I would love to not be there. So let's talk about, you started laying out some habits. Let's talk specifically about training, all right? And I'm just going to ask you specific questions, and you can bring us down rabbit holes. But in your opinion, let's talk about resistance training, using weights for people that don't know, and gravity and body weight to build muscle and, just change your body, lose fat. Recomp. What do you think is the most effective training regimen, let's just say for the average person who's healthy without major injuries and wants to start building muscle? And you could frame that with 3-day splits, 5-day splits, but what's the most effective and science-based, and for you subjectively works?
Yeah, for me, it's hypertrophy style training, which is kind of progressive overload. And that's really because we're going, as we age over 35, like we start losing our muscle mass. And we start losing our muscle mass, like you start not feeling manly anymore. You start becoming skinny fat. So for me, it was like I wanted to get in a frame where I had muscle, and I was 41. So I had to create this urgency of like, how do I do that? And it wasn't going to be these group fitness classes where I was touching heavy weights for 10 or 15 minutes. It was like, no, I got to push some weight, and I got to progress with that weight, and I got to stress the muscle. And then I have to repair the muscle and feed the muscle. And so that was a system that played well into the habits because it held me accountable, not other people, but I have to be accountable to this system. And this isn't something I can do frequently. It becomes a lifestyle. If you want to grow muscle, right, you have to progressively put it under more stress, whether it's 3 days a week, 5 days a week, 7 days a week. Your goal is to fight against aging and fight against gravity. And the way you got to do that is to continue to build the muscle. And the only way you're going to build the muscle is to put it under stress. And the best way to put it under stress is progressive overload, right? And that's hypertrophy style training. It's not these one-arm handstands with balls in your feet and doing these circus acts. It's like, those are cool for Instagram, but they're not going to build muscle, right? And group fitness classes are good to say, you check the box and you got a good sweat on, but they're not going to build muscle. So if you want to really kind of to build yourself up into a body recomp, you have to have a program that's very strategic and intentional. And I always talk about that, like 2 things to change your body: intentionality and intensity. So you have to be very intentional with, okay, I've got a plan to follow. These have worked for thousands of men before. These aren't new exercises. These are standard exercises. I need to get good at these, number one. And then number 2, I need to bring intensity. And as a man, we deal with so much, I recognize, like there's always something to be stressed about or angry about or be frustrated about. It was like progressive overload allowed me to like get it out there. Like I can bring the alpha there. I can put it into those weights. I can let all that frustration out, and I can walk out not angrier, but more satisfied, because it was like, I did the hard thing today. And then work became easier. Creating new ideas became easier, because it was like, I remember like I'd look at like when I was lazy, I'd be like, oh, I got to do this office work. I need 15 cups of coffee and then sit down. And it's like, now it's like, I just squatted 235, 200 effing times. And I can take care of these 9 tasks on the computer. It's not really a big deal. Right.
Right.
And so that was one, but 2, it keeps you engaged as a male. when you're constantly going deeper into a progressive overload process, it's not like 1 inch deep across 7 different areas, right? But it's like one area really deep, and you just keep getting better at it. You keep getting stronger with it. So for me, the answer has always been progressive overload, hypertrophy style training, right? And there's lots of different tricks within that, There's half reps, there's time under tension. So that allows the men to kind of get creative, but also have a goal while always progressing. And so for me, that was like, I looked at everything else. I looked at CrossFit, I looked at Jiu-Jitsu, I looked at like, okay, what's going to be something that's going to stick this time? And for me, that was the style. And then I knew, well, that style also means I have to commit from the nutrition side, because the nutrition side is going to fuel the training side, and the training side is going to create the body recomp. So they went hand in hand. And that for me, like, that's a lifestyle change. That's something that every day is going to hold me accountable. And that's something that is, for me, I do really well with systems, and it was a system. All my businesses were scaled because they had systems.
Hey, everybody, it's your host, Jesse Karajak. Quick interruption of this podcast. Look, there's a multitude of ways that we all can and should look to improve our drinking habits, right? And we talk about them all the time on this show. Things like getting in a group, being honest with people, focusing on sleep and nutrition and exercise. I can go on and on. But what most people don't know, and frankly, I didn't know, is that there is an FDA-approved medication that you can start taking. It's easily accessible and private and affordable, and you can start taking it today and start experiencing powerful benefits within days. And again, I've done it. I'm blown away by it. And I want to get the word out so that as many people as possible know that is an option that they can and should use. So there's a company called OR Health. That's OAR Health. You can text STRENGTH, that's STRENGTH, to 710710. Again, that's STRENGTH to 710710. You'll get a secure link. You can fill out an assessment. And if the medication is right for you, a licensed medical professional will prescribe it for you and privately, discreetly have it shipped to your home. You'll be one of over 35,000 people that have decided to take back control of their drinking through OR Health. And 76% of OR Health members report drinking less within just 2 weeks. So if you've been struggling, know that there is an incredibly powerful option out there for you. So again, STRENGTH to 710710 to see if it's a fit. And now back to the show.
Yep. So training wise, how important it is, it sounds like you work out in the morning, first thing in the morning.
Yeah, most of the time.
How important do you think it is based on what time you work out in terms of muscle growth? Or do you think it's more important to just have consistency or somewhere in between?
Consistency. Yeah, I think initially it's definitely consistency. Like pro bodybuilders train at 3 p.m, but most business owners can't go training at 3 p.m. The only reason they do that, they have a couple of meals in them and they have more calories to get through the workout. But for me, my goal was like, I didn't care about recovery. I didn't care about overtraining. Like in the beginning, it was about showing up for myself. So I went 7 days a week, every single day. I went and trained something. And because it was, I needed to show up, I needed to wake up early and I needed something to do. And I needed to be able to receive my family. A piece, Jesse, that I didn't mention was like, I was not receiving my family well. I was waking up after them. I needed coffee. I was grouchy. And I was like, these kids are just going to know me as this cranky old ass man. And so for me, it was like, I recognized like I need Dane time. I'm not having Dane time. I need Dane time to start the day. And that routine needs to set the pace for the rest of the day so that by the time my kids get up and my wife comes down, it's not, hey, what's up? It's, hey, good morning. I'm ready for you. My vibration is there. I've got my workout done. I had Dane time. I put the right things in my head. I had a good meal that's fueled better thoughts for me. I got a couple of victories already before they even wake up. So I need that every day.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
What's better, man? What is better than when you wake up as planned, you hit your workout as planned and maybe even exceed your expectations. You get back, you take care of you shower up, then you're down there and you're cooking breakfast, you're greeting everybody in your good mood, you help everyone get out the door. Like to me, that's two monstrous wins. You showed up for yourself and your fitness, and then you showed up for your family. That's a good day. That's a good day, man.
Nothing better. Especially if you do that on a Saturday. When they're not going to school and you're up and it's like, I'm here on a Saturday. I remember being like still drinking at this hour. You
Yeah.
know, I remember like just being deep in addiction at points and being in a club at 7 in the morning when I was in Miami. I'm like, oh, I'm training. Like there's just this immediate like release of endorphins and serotonin. It's like I'm showing up for me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's true. Like you have to put the mask over you to be able to save anybody else. Like so
Yeah.
many dads come to me and I'm like, how'd you get here, man? What hard? It's like my kids are doing this, my wife's doing this, I'm putting them through that. It's like you've given them all that, but you're not their hero. You know what I mean? You're just a slave for them.
Yeah.
Cut the check, and they're going to remember, oh, my dad was a hard worker. But it's like, are you leading them? And you're not leading them when you're playing that role. So it's like, I felt like I have super high standards. I always have in my life. Like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Even when I partied, it was like, I'm going to be the best partier. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be the last one to leave this mother effer. So, but so I believe in like when you're going to do something, do it the right way. And so for me, like when I had the kids and I had my wife and I want them to have standards, it was like I got no leverage unless I have them in my own life. And so
Yeah.
I get emotional now because my kids are 8 and 5, and it's because now they see this version of me. You know, it's like I have all the ability to not teach them because habits aren't taught, they're caught. That's a big belief of mine. And I recognize that with both of my kids. I could teach them a bull in the face, they just will not listen. But the moment I started doing these things, they became so much more curious and interested in my life.
Yeah, hell yeah. I was just listening. I just watched a video. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. Don't judge me. But Des Bryant, former receiver, great receiver, just there's this viral video of him talking about these quotes that he has on his phone that help him be a good father. And one of the things that he says is don't forget that your words become their inner voice, and don't let that inner voice be their inner critic. Which means if you're constantly criticizing, you're constantly yelling, you're constantly being impatient, unloving, unsupportive, what have you, whatnot, that kid's going to grow up in their whole life. All they're going to hear in their own inner voice is going to be what you put into their voice about how they should perceive the world. So I watched his video and actually made me cry, right?
Yeah.
And there's something else I think about, probably why you and I connect on this is you know, despite some shame that you've sounds like you've had in your life over decisions you've made, like partying and priorities, I have those as well.
Yeah.
However, I wouldn't change a single thing about my life, because for a guy like me and you, when you do the right thing, when you show up and you know what you used to be like when you were maybe, and this is me talking about me, but more self-centered, more reckless, more destructive, more selfish, right?
Yeah.
Because I know what I used to be like, the effort that I put in to be consistent and have integrity, being a loving and a good dad and husband now, it makes me just feel that much more proud, and I give the glory to God as I should, but also it's just that much more gratifying for me to like just show up, man, because it's a choice and you have agency, and not every guy makes the pivot that you made.
Yeah, that's so true, man. It's you have to experience darkness and droughts in life to really appreciate the light and to keep seeking the light. Yeah, because you have that contrast of I know what, like, people are like, oh, do you miss the food and everything? It's like, no, because I know how I respond the next day to everyone and everything. Do you miss the alcohol? No, because I know how I respond. I have enough experiences to know I respond very poorly, and I hurt myself and I hurt the people I love. So like, but if I didn't have that experience, I'm always living in the middle. Like the Bible says, I'm always lukewarm, right? So like my wife say, like where we live, everybody's lukewarm. They haven't really experienced the really troubling parts of life or the harder parts of life. And they maybe have had some mild highs, but a lot of them live lukewarm. And I'm like, because they haven't had, hard falls. And when you have hard falls and you've had darkness in your life and you can have that contrast, especially with like spiritual warfare or your own demons that you fought, you finally get light, Christ, and you have that North Star, and you exchange faith for fear, it just becomes a different, to change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, and you start to then, wait a minute, this is fear, this isn't serving me, this is what, is not, this is here to teach me, I need to reshift this, how do I rechange that? And you start to get the tools to learn how to do that, but you have to have a lot of negative self-talk, unfortunately, to experience when you can recognize patterns.
Yeah, and God uses people that have hurt in their life to help other people who are hurting. I believe that. I lost my father to AIDS from intravenous drugs. I lost my stepfather from complications from, just decades of drinking. And of course I have my own alcohol abuse story for decades, right? Self-destructive behavior. That simply to say, once a week, I won't say where out of respect to these gentlemen, but once a week, early in the morning on Thursdays, I drive up about 30 minutes north of where I am, and there's this amazing farm that is for people in addiction, recovery, and actually experiencing homelessness. But those things usually go hand in hand. And these are guys. It's for men only, but these are guys who, just as an example, I was chatting with one of them last week. Spent 5 years living on the streets, had been sexually assaulted while sleeping on the streets multiple times over, chronic drug addiction, trying his best in his 40s to make something of his life, goes to this farm, and it's a 9-month stay. And what we do is every single week we go up there, and when I say we, it's myself and one other gentleman, but we just help them understand the fundamentals of fitness and mindfulness and stuff like that. It's just one tool. And that's still to say, I'm so grateful that I have the experience that I have, because even though I don't have these extreme examples of where their addictions and mental health took them, I can relate fundamentally with the inclination to go down that road. And when I talk to these men and I look them in the eyes and they share their stories, I can feel that when they're talking to me, that they know that I accept them and that we're the same. We're not the same circumstantially, but there's that connection because and I couldn't have that relatability, and I couldn't do the work that I'm doing and be effective and authentic in it if I didn't have the life that I had up until now. And it just makes me grateful that I can help people in that way.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing. Like, we all have, a guy told me, we all have different levels of the elevator that we get off. It's not everybody needs to go to the bottom floor.
Well said.
Everyone experiences different bottoms, but the relatability of pain and suffering, that's universal. And, whether it's especially when it's from a male perspective, it's like, whether it's in your marriage or in your home or in your workplace, there's a feeling of abandonment or feeling alone. And that's a relatability that a lot of us don't talk about, but we all have experienced and we can connect on. It's just getting to a place of trust and comfort of being here was my moment.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Hey, Dane, your podcast is called Make the Switch, right?
Flip the switch.
Flip the switch. Okay. Flip the switch. We'll link to that later, but here's a segue for you. I'm going to flip the switch, pull us up, and go right back to fitness on you. So I told you we were going to jump around, right? But because you started moving towards nutrition, and I'm going to get back to blocking and tackling on how people can, change their body and how they feel about themselves. So just one or maybe two more questions on fitness, right? Give us between a 3, a 4, and a 5-day split for someone who maybe doesn't have all the time in the world, just wants to get an effective workout that has progressive overload, damage those muscles, grow back stronger, all that. What is a good split, would you say? Would you go with a 4-day split, a 3?
If somebody's trying to lose body fat, most of our guys are trying to lose body fat and build muscle. So I always say, you don't know where their conditioning is and what level, and we never want to get somebody injured because that stops the journey. So it's always about being risk averse and being smart about it. So I'm always teaching guys, don't go in there and try to do 3, 4 rep, 1 rep maxes. This is not the time to be doing that, right? We're looking to get comfortable with a weight that we can move comfortably, and we want to do it each exercise a couple of times so that we know, okay, this is the weight that I can move 8 to 12 times for legs, for arms, for whatever, right? And so the way that we have found the best success is really a 3-day split, like a push-pull legs, and you rotate every other day, and in between that you include cardio for them so that they're moving every day, 6 days a week, and they have a rest day. So one day they're pushing, the next day they're cardio, the next day they're pulling, the next day they're cardio, the next day they're doing legs, the next day they're doing cardio. So you can get over a 6-day period. Every day you're moving and you're sweating and you're activating. Now, depending on if you're at gym or at home, the weights and the exercises will vary, but that's a great platform to start on. That builds momentum, that builds consistency. They're going to chop away at some of that fat. They're going to get the body moving. They're going to strengthen their ligaments and their joints, and then they're going to be able to progress from there.
I like it.
So push-pull legs is a great way. And then sometimes you'll add in a 4th day of, hey, where's a weak spot? Now, okay, we want to work on our arms. Okay, let's add another day in here, and let's make Saturday your arm day, right? So yeah, I would say push-pull legs is a great place for guys to start. And then also incorporating not long runs, extensive HIIT training cardio, but low intensity cardio.
Okay. What's your back to the push pull leg? So if it's, let's just say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, your lifting days. In between days, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are your cardio days. On the lifting days, are you saying week one, we'll call it push, pull, legs, but then repeat that the second week, or do you change the order?
You keep
Repeat it.
repeating.
Okay.
Yeah, like you don't want to be changing programs because it takes 2 weeks for them to get used to the exercise and the weight. And so now they're used to the exercise and the weight. You go changing it up, they have to start that whole process over again. So you really want weeks 3 and 4 where they know, okay, this is the weight I'm comfortable with. This is where I start to feel like the weight's heavy, so I can progress from here. Now my form's a little bit better. Now we got a chance of actually activating and contracting the muscle properly. So 3, 4, and beyond is when we really start making the progress. The first 2 weeks are still figuring out the gym and the routine and the downset, how their body's responding. Everyone's different, but that's a good average to use. Like they're still working their way around.
Yep.
Usually weeks 3 and 4, now they're like, okay, now I know that this is my incline, and then I go to my shoulder raises. And last time I did the 25, so now I'm going to start there and try to go to the 30s. So that muscle memory starts to kick in, and then they start to really progress. Because at our age, it's not about the weight. It's really about engagement, how much time under tension you have, and how much blood you're sending to the muscle. I'm always teaching guys about that.
Typical workout, let's just take that, like say push day, about 60 minutes, 75 minutes. What do you think?
No, we try to get the guys in and out within 45, 50 minutes on the exercise, and then we'll add cardio.
Okay. Push-pull legs, 3-day split. Progressive overload is king. Cardio-wise, you were starting to say, like low-intensity, steady-state cardio. Any modality specifically? Do you put them on a treadmill? Do you advise against jogging?
Stairmaster.
Stairmaster.
We love Stairmaster. They call it the Stair Beast for a reason. It's going to bring out those inner demons and start to awaken the hero.
Yeah.
And it's actually it's difficult, but it's really fantastic for conditioning. You're going to find out where you are physically when you hit a Stairmaster after a workout.
Yeah. Do you do heart rate training, or do you just go based on difficulty, perceived exertion?
Yeah, no, a lot of our guys, we hook them up and we get whoops. So we have a whole team. A lot of our guys are on Whoop. Yeah. So we have a team. So we track it, and I can also monitor and coach them from their output. Like Friday's session, I could see a lot of guys were like, oh, I think I'm plateauing. And so I went and looked at the Whoop data, and I was like, dude, you have a 6 strain. You're not plateauing. You're not
working hard enough.
Intensity. You're not pushing hard enough.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where you're at. And so now there's a coachable moment to just isolate, this is the issue. Or, hey, I think I'm plateauing. Well, your sleep is 30%, right? We don't build muscle or burn fat when we're awake. It happens when we sleep. Let's look at that nighttime protocol. What time we going to bed? What time we shutting the screen down, right? What's happening in the middle of the night? How are we eating sugar? So you can really isolate. That's why I love data so much now. When you partner that with a good routine, every week we meet with our guys. Every Friday they do a check-in. So every week we're calibrating, right? Was it a compliance issue, or was it a nutrition or training issue or recovery issue? And so we make these minor tweaks every week.
Love it. Dane, did you ever drink alcohol while wearing a Whoop?
Yeah, that Whoop actually made me give up alcohol. That was for sure. Yeah, I wasn't a big drinker because I started to recognize I wasn't really a good drinker anymore, and I didn't enjoy it, but I did it socially, and I did it to maybe connect with my wife because she enjoys wine. Mm-hmm. And so I was drinking more for like, okay, maybe this will bring us closer and we'll connect. It's thought that would have been the way. And unfortunately, I would see my recovery, and I'm like, I would go back to like so many times, like I had to climb 100 stairs yesterday. I pushed for 60 minutes, all that weight. And then I recognized the moment I put that alcohol in my body, it stopped building muscle, it stopped burning fat, and I slept like crap. And now I have a terrible next day. And a couple of times of those, and it was like, we're done. We're done.
Yeah, that'll happen. Last question on the fitness side of things. So you've got most of your guys, it sounds like early on, doing 3 days of low intensity, steady state cardio. How long each time?
I mean, the keys of the kingdom here, I don't know. It really depends on where the person comes in. But we try to at least start them out with 20 minutes. Guys that are more advanced, we'll go up to 45 minutes, and then we'll calibrate at the end of the week, see how well they recovered, how much weight they lost, how many calories they're burning. So it really varies from, let's say, the smallest side I'll ask for is kind of 20 minutes and initially 45 minutes.
Got it. Tracking. Okay. And then I lied to you. One more question. Do you ever prescribe high intensity training? If so, how many times a week, bringing your heart rate up to like zone 5 type training?
Yeah, when guys start to hit a plateau where they're deep into the training, we'll then include it. In the beginning, we don't do it because risk of injury. They're now moving weights that they weren't moving. They're training more frequently. Now, if the guy goes sprinting on a treadmill, who knows? He could pull an Achilles or blow a knee or something like that. So we stay away from that stuff in the beginning. But later on in the journey, when I know, okay, the conditioning is there, they've been doing X, Y, and Z, we're now at a place where we can incorporate some high intensity training. And so we'll strategically add it into certain plans.
Got it.
And, maybe on the front end of a cardio session or on the back end of a cardio session, depending on the client. Example would be, hey, the first 10 minutes, I want you on this machine. I want you performing HIIT-like style and very prescriptive, right? Heart rate in between here, level between here, 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off, whatever. And then I want you to switch over to this machine and go X, Y, and Z. So we literally are very, very prescriptive with what they need to be doing, how long they need to be doing it, and at what level they need to do it.
Got it. Okay. Nutrition. 80% of fitness is built in the kitchen. What say you? You agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
What is your, man, I know there's so many different ways to skin that cat. For somebody listening, let's just say they just don't even think about what they eat. They eat based on what's convenient or tasty, right? Or cheap. Lay out, in your opinion, for fitness and overall health internally and externally, meaning how you look and what's going on, in your organs, inflammation, things like that. What's the best nutrition lifestyle in your opinion?
In my opinion, it's macro-based eating. If you're a guy over 35 and you're interested in building muscle and you want to keep your body in a state of constantly being a furnace instead of a storage unit, you got to feed it, and you have to feed it foods that are optimal for you, and you have to feed it frequently. Otherwise, if you go to this intermittent fasting, which is not sustainable, I've done it. I've done keto, I've done paleo, I've done intermittent fasting. I've done them all, and they all work to get you in a caloric deficit or get weight off, but they're never sustainable because eventually you start craving things, and when those cravings hit, you can't control them, and you can put that 15 pounds on in a minute. But if you balance each plate with the proper amount of protein, the proper amount of carbs, the proper amount of fat, and you feed it frequently, you're going to be used to eating more food than you've ever eaten, while eating less calories than you've ever had and losing more weight than you ever lost. So it becomes this like confusing moment for them. Like, how the hell is this happening? I'm eating more than I've ever eaten and I'm losing weight. Like, this doesn't make sense. I can tell you almost 95% of the guys that come through, how many meals you eat in a day? Dude, I eat 2 meals a day. That's it. There's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Problem. Because what your body is doing is it's saying, I don't know when the next meal's coming down the chute, right? So I'm going to hold on to this meal. So we're in a storage, right, freezer state as opposed to a furnace state. If the body knows every 4 hours I have foods that are coming down that are optimal and they're consistent, well, it knows what's coming down the chute, how to process it and what to do with it, and it knows we got to get rid of this because we've got another one coming. And so now the body starts within 2 weeks, the body starts to really get regulated, your digestion is on point, your inflammation is down, and your system is operating like a machine. And when you're like that, that's when you really start seeing the changes. And I preach this all the time. When I get guys to just be disciplined enough for 2 weeks to see the change, they start getting hooked. They start buying more into the lifestyle. They start making the better decisions on their own. And it's really confusing for them because initially there's a lot of bitching and moaning. Oh, this is a lot of food. And I'm like, it's because 300 calories of good food looks like this. 300 calories of bad food looks like that.
Yeah.
Right? You're eating the wrong calories. And so for me, macro-based meal planning changed my life, and you can be very strategic about it. You have to be strategic about it. You can still enjoy the carbs. You can still enjoy the foods you love. It's just meal timing is really important.
Okay. How about carb timing? You said meal timing. Do you manipulate carbohydrates based on when a person works out, or do you just level them off across the day?
It depends on the individual and their schedule. A lot of our guys are busy, so it depends on we unpack what's your schedule like? What are your breaks? What's a typical day look like? And then it's an assessment of can we be strategic and time the carbs for this guy and really optimize it, or do we have to spread it out throughout the day? So again, everybody is different. There's not like one blueprint that we just give everybody, but we play with both of those. Yeah, it's either we'll break it up into multiple meals, or if we have the ability to time the carbs, we will.
Got it. Okay. Macro by macro here. Let's start with carbohydrates, right? And for the listeners, I always assume most people know, but we're talking about fats, carbohydrates, and proteins when we talk about
Yeah.
macros. We'll start with the carbohydrates. Do you discern maybe the more important to have, say, starches versus fruits, or is it just a mix? Get them however you can. What's your view on that? With the types of carbs that you're actually consuming?
Yeah, like if you're gonna go basic, it's just stay in a calorie deficit and pick these carbs. If you're really looking to be optimal, and we can really have somebody that can be more strategic about how they eat and when they eat and the timing of the controlling, then we control like, hey, this is going to be a low glycemic carb, this is going to be a high glycemic carb. We want this carb digesting really quickly and not burning slowly. And we have a small window to do that. So we're going to pump in these carbs around this time, eat at this time, drink this, drink that. We stay away from fruits and sugary things initially. We really kind of pull out sugar in all, and we keep it to simple carbs that are going to digest easily, get right into the bloodstream, and go right to the muscle group that we're training. And then if there's, where we're going to have a block of window where they can't eat or they can't train, then we'll use slower burning carbs, so things like oatmeal, as an example, or Ezekiel bread or a sweet potato. Those are lower glycemic, so they don't spike your insulin. They'll burn a little bit slower, and they'll keep them fuller.
Okay. If somebody is working out first thing in the morning, like me, what say you about working out fasted versus having some meal before you work out, regardless of what time it is?
Depends on your goal, but if you want to build muscle and you're lifting weights, you should always eat. You should never train fasted.
Would you answer that question the same if the training session was cardio?
Cardio should be fasted.
Okay. So that answer was specific to resistance training in the morning, but if you're doing cardio in the morning, you would recommend not having a meal before that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always. Yeah, we do fasted cardio and we do fueled training sessions always.
I like it. And you answered earlier about the timing of training early on, consistency and just getting in there matters most. So it doesn't matter when you're training with weights, just get in there and do your lifts.
That's right. Yeah, you're gonna grow and change your body just by getting in there.
Okay. Fats, this might be a quick question answer here, but what's the ideal sources of fats that you'd recommend for people?
For me, it's like extra virgin olive oil, it's avocado, sometimes it's nut butter, depending on how people respond to it, but almond butter is a safe one if you can handle peanut butter. It is an inflammatory one, but some people don't have a reaction to it, so we'll include it at certain times. Macadamia nut oil is one of my favorites as well. It's like got this nutty taste to it. But those are in MCT oil. Those are going to be fats that are super optimal. They're going to not cause inflammation, and they're going to digest really quickly for you.
Yeah, heart health too, I would imagine, some of the ones you named there. Okay, and then proteins. What do you think the best sources of protein are? And maybe a specific question, are you a red meat guy?
Yeah, for sure. I eat ground beef, so lean ground beef. For me, it's like 96.4 or 93.7 is optimal, in my opinion. Then ground turkey, 99% fat-free, is really one of my favorites. You can do whitefish, you can do shrimp, you can do mahi, if you like seafood, and then chicken. Those are some of my favorites.
Good old chicken.
We have some vegetarians, so firm tofu is one of the optimal ones for that side.
So we're over an hour, because and honestly, I could talk to you for probably 10 more of these hours. But awesome. I do want to get to, just kind of like overarching advice that you would give someone, because we just went very specific, and I hope everyone finds this very valuable on fitness, nutrition, mindfulness, life, faith, all those things. But what are just some kind of like overarching advice that you would give somebody if you're sitting from across from them? Kind of pull back the curtains for us. If you're meeting with a man for maybe the first meeting, and you're going to say, all right, man, here's what I want you to focus on for these next couple of weeks. What would that conversation sound like from you?
Well, a lot of it is, tell me about your day. Like, when does it start? When does it end? Like, what are your eating habits, right? What are you putting in your body? And so understanding that allows me to kind of have some context, and then I direct from there. But it always goes back to, hey, what if we were to shift that nighttime workout to a morning workout, right? And what if we were to, instead of being up at 11 or 12 o'clock, checking our phone and handling business, but we set a protocol in place to where we started to unwind from 8 or 9 o'clock, and we shut that phone down. How would you wake up the next day? How would you be able to have the right energy to show up for a workout, right? Then how would you also be able to prepare for the next meal? So it goes back to getting them, to incorporating these 5 daily habits into their life. And we shift guys all the time. And when that happens, it's like, I can't believe it. And so I know the power of belief there is just like ingrained in my DNA because I know what it does for people. And why that's important is because as a man, we wear so much stress. We have so many different hats, and we don't have a whole lot of people to tell the story to. Like when we succeed and we make money, we can't tell anybody, right? Because there becomes envy, there becomes jealousy, they take shots. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, I need money. So, subjected to lending money. And when we're failing, people love to fucking kick you when you're down. I've noticed that, especially family. So it's like, well, I can't tell them this either, right? So you're always kind of in this island. And most of the guys that, if you're building anything to get something down a runway with enough velocity and then get that thing in the air and then keep that thing in the air, which is called life and business and parenting and fatherhood and being a husband, right? And being a financial provider, there's so much that has to happen and go your way that you can't control a lot of it. So why not take 5 simple things that you can control and then allow the cards fall as they may and shift it from a fear-based life to a faith-based life because, hey, you did what you could do that day and you raised the standard in your own life, and the people around you could say all that they want about you, but they can't take a shot at those areas. Like, son of a bitch always wakes up, he always gets his workout in, he's always disciplined in his meals, right? Like, they're just waiting for you to fail. But what it also gives you the ability to do is make people curious. And when people are curious, you have the power of influence. And so when you have the power of influence, it's a very powerful tool, especially if you're living a life of faith. It allows you to share more of what works for you. And so it's not just those actions are done for you in your selfish life, but now you now lend that to your children. You lend that to your coworkers. You lend that to your employees. You lend that to your neighbors. People become like, what's he eating? Why is he eating? And that I realized, like, when I transformed, it was like, man, I started something that was so selfish for me, but in the bigger picture, it was never about me.
Yeah.
You know, it's allowed me to influence so many more people.
Yeah, Dan, you know what I love about your message here? You keep coming back to this idea of like control the things you can control and let go of the things you can't. And it sounds like on a daily basis. I love how you say, get that win. Like when you eat healthy, you plan your meal, you get the win. Like you're controlling things. But what's also healthy is letting go of the other things. And what's so practical, and I hope the listeners take away, it's focus on those 5 things. And all of those things can be done first. You do those first tomorrow.
Yep.
And then with that sense of accomplishment, you can still be diligent and disciplined and work hard and do all the things that you want to do. But you can let go of other things, and your whole day is going to feel healthier, and cumulatively you will be healthier if you follow those simple steps. And I love that you're controlling some things, but you're also letting go, because moderation, that middle ground, is always healthy, right? Because you can't control everything, but you can't let go of everything too. And I love your message.
Yeah. And that you mentioned something at the beginning, like 2 points from that. Like what I love is like you can I teach like eat food, like change your perspective around flavor to fuel. Like if you look at food as fuel, okay, this is going to fuel the next 4-hour block of my life. And if you're a man and a provider and you have a job, the fuel, I got the fuel I need. Now let me go execute. Come up for air, fuel I need. Now let me go execute. Come up for air, family time. Let me be present where my feet are, right? Come up for air, let me be present. So it gives you these 3 to 4 hour blocks where you can dive deep and be where your feet are. Come up for air, feed yourself. Hey, I took care of me. Back into the grind, right? That is like this loop that I always played for myself.
It's a rhythm.
Yeah, it's a rhythm of life. And you just become, okay, now it's family time. Be where my feet are, right? Now it's time for family. From 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, we do family time. This is what we do, right? And I'm not thinking about work because I had those blocks. And then I also put more intentionality in those blocks because I know I have 2 3-hour blocks today to get work done. So this is the time to get that work done. So guys, production goes through the roof. Like I started this whole business that I run, Dad Bod Sculptors, right? From a place of like complete depression and just disconnection to now like connecting with hundreds of guys on a daily basis. And it's only because I just became very intentional. And when I was there, I was present. And that is like, I think guys do really well with systems and blueprints, right? And so it's not an overly complicated blueprint to run your life, no matter what business or how you lead your life. It's a very simple blueprint, and you can control those things.
Hell yeah. Well said. You said it 3 times. I'm going to say it 3 more. Be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. One more time. Be where your feet are. Man, I freaking love that. That's probably the best single quote I've heard in almost a year. of doing this podcast. Be where your feet are, man. That's fantastic, because I know exactly what you mean, because there are times when you are in a room physically, but you're not in the room mentally. Yeah, and if you lead a life like that for too long, you're going to miss every single amazing opportunity to connect with the people around you. And that's what we're trying to avoid, man.
Yeah. The one thing I say, man, as a dad, I had noticed this because I did it for the first couple of years. Like, the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have them forever. Like, I turn around and it's like, I remember being in the hospital with my first kid. Now he's 8 years old. I'm like, 8 years. Like, be where your feet are. You got this window with him. This is the time. And so it allows you to be more present. Like, it goes back to, like, I know you weren't talking about fitness. I'm like, fitness was a tool that I used to become a better person. It wasn't, I never thought about being an online coach. I never thought about that, but it was a tool I used in my own life. So it's a tool you have in your box that you should incorporate on a daily basis to continue to elevate your life and become a better version for your kids, to be the hero for them, right? For your wife, because now you have these standards and you have a system that allows you to be at work when you're at work, be with family when you're at family, and you just operate better. And then you're not putting in neurotoxin that's going to impact the way you think. You're not loading your body up with sugar, which is going to impact. So they all go together. It just becomes this well-orchestrated system. And nothing, my wife, like, being disciplined is sexy as fuck. Like, you know, I heard that and I thought, I got to be that. I want to be sexy to my wife. I want my wife to think I'm sexy.
Yeah.
Like, I need to be disciplined. Like, yeah. And so I talk to these guys who are like, well, I'm on a date. I said, dude, you tell her you don't drink and you eat a disciplined thing, she's going to be 10 times more curious about the man that you are. Trust me on that, because if you do like every other average Joe, she's going to compare you to every other average Joe. But if you immediately step outside that box and say, I don't drink and I don't smoke and I eat this way, guess what? She's calling you back the next day because she wants some of that.
Yeah, man. Well, let's not. We'll go here. 15 years from now, when you're married to her and she's just trying to get you to eat lasagna with her and you're still disciplined, she'll get pissed. But early on, that's a good way to go. And I'll add this. I can't say anything better than the way you just said it, Dane, so I won't even try. But I'll add, in addition to discipline being sexy, I think consistency, right? Because if you're disciplined for a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, what's it matter? But if you can manage to string together and be a consistent person that your wife and your kids can depend on, they know what they get, and what they get is good, and you show up every day consistently, that is king in my mind. And I think that is the journey that we're all on, and what we're all seeking is to be consistently disciplined and show up every single day. That's what it's about.
Man. Yeah, man. And oh, by the way, you'll get a better body from it.
Yeah, you know? And look good and feel good. Yeah.
You'll look good and feel good. Seth Feroce, who was a bodybuilder I followed, he had another thing I hung on to, is he's like, I just want to look good naked. And I remember being like, I'm so uncomfortable naked. I was like, that would be a really good goal. Like, that would be just a good goal to start with, like, look good naked, you know? Yeah. And I knew, like, discipline and consistency were going to be the only way to look good and feel good naked. So that's also for guys that are out there. It's like, we all want to be that for our wife, you know? We want to be desired, and we want to feel like we're in a place where we can desire them with confidence. And so all these little things will empower you to do that.
Amen. Well said, brother. Dane, it's been amazing chatting with you, dude. I know, obviously, I'm going to link to your Instagram. I know you have a YouTube channel, but just tell the folks other places where they can find you, and maybe some things as you look into 2024 that you're working on that you're excited about that you want everybody to know about.
Yeah, so they can find me, dadbodsculptors.com. That'll be a website that they can go to, and it's got all my information, my partnerships, my products that I have strategic partners with, so all products that I stand behind. And the thing that I'm working on that's next is a school community, SKOOL, which is a community to gather all men over 35 and teach them everything they need to know around training, nutrition, and mindset. And it's a way for guys on the lower end that can't afford kind of the higher ticket service one-on-one coaching to gather, set some goals, understand the foods that are optimal for them, understand how to calculate and manage a macro-based meal plan, and then get the right training to support that, but also have a community of like-minded men that have gone on the journey or are going through the journey together. So I plan on this being kind of the next big project for me over the next couple of weeks as we launch that, to where we're going to transform thousands and thousands of guys' lives through this community where we can all collect and relate. Because a lot of times I do coaching calls, group coaching calls, and man, you'd be surprised. Like, it's so little about fitness and nutrition. It's really like, man, I'm 7 months into my marriage and my wife doesn't get it, and I'm getting resistance. And we start talking about marriage, and we start talking about being a father and being a role model. So you realize, like, men don't have that outlet to kind of express some of their pains and frustrations. So this is a place to do that while also getting information to build yourself up into the man you know you need to be.
Oh, yeah. Well said. And we'll link to all the places and get people in your community because you got a lot to offer, men and anyone in general. So, Dane Palarino, man, it's been a blessing getting to know you. Thanks for coming on the Sober Strength podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jesse, for having me.
All right, everybody, that's the show, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sober Strength podcast and spending some time with us today. We've got a favor to ask. If you enjoyed the show, would you please consider subscribing to the show and even leaving a rating and review? That simple act drastically helps us reach more people in our mission to help them live better, longer, healthier lives. You can also follow us if you'd like on Instagram and YouTube for regular tips and motivation around mental health, addiction, and so much more. Know that your support fuels our brand and is greatly appreciated. So until next time, stay strong and live deep.